I'm going to go talk about URI stripper filter. This is one of the new filters and the simplest filters that we have, and it does two things, focused on two things. Basically, stripping out a specific location or specific section of the request URI, and to make it seamless to the end user, you put that stripped out section back into the location header when you're getting the response back. So those are the two things that this particular filter does. And if you look at the configuration file, it has two specific attributes. One is the rewrite location, and one is the token index. And what do they do? Token index basically identifies like what it basically takes a number, and what does that number do is it takes a URI. The URI stripper filter takes a URI, and basically it tokenizes the URI starting with 0. If you look at this particular URI on the screen, I have a request URI, and in the request URI, it shows an example of how it takes a URI and tokenizes it. The first, it starts with 0 on /v1, and it tokenizes with the delimiter /. So the v1 is 0, and 1, 2, 3, 4 is 1, and list IP is 2 in this. So this 0, 1, 2 is what the token index is that you put in the URI stripper configuration file to tell the filter which part of the URI needs to be stripped out, so that when it goes to the origin service or the endpoint, that portion of URI is not there in the request anymore. So in this case, if you look at it, token index to strip is equal to 1, which is the value in the URI 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what we are trying to achieve here. And after it goes through the filter, this is how the request would look at the endpoint, which does not have the token index of 1, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 in the request URI anymore. And the other attribute that's in the configuration file is rewrite location. And what does this do? Rewrite location basically, if there is a location header coming back from your origin service response, then the filter will look at that location header and add the stripped out token from the URI back into the location header. To show an example here. So if you have a location header coming back from the response that looks like this, localhost 8888 v1 list IP, which doesn't have the portion of the URI that we have asked to be stripped out, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 in the URI in the request. The way that the filter will manipulate the location header coming back is it will take the location header and look at its pre and post components, which would be the which has to be matched with the pre and post components. In this case, it should be like v1, which is index of 0, and list IP, which is index of 2, which are considered as the pre and post components to the element that is going to be stripped out. So it does take the location header and look for pre and post components to identify where do it put that stripped out piece from the URI back into the location header. So in this case, what comes out back to the client that sends a request is /v1 /1234 and list IP, which now includes the token that has been stripped out, going to the origin service. So those are the two key components in here. So this is I have Repose running, and this is how the configurations look. My system model configuration file have the filter named URI-stripper, and then you have the configuration file which is named URI-stripper.cfg.xml, which is the default name. And right now I have the rewrite location attribute set to 2, which means I want my location header to be rewritten, and token index of 0, which means I want the index of 0 token element in my URI to be stripped out. So if I send the request through, so I send the request through, and this is the request that I have sent, which has v1/location/200. And if you look at what got stripped out and what's been sent to the origin service, if you look at what's been sent to origin service, this one here, it hits mock service without v1 in the URI. The reason why it does not have v1 compared to what's been sent is because we asked v1, which is a 0th element, to be stripped out of the URI. And the other thing to notice is rewrite location header. So in this case, our origin service is sending us back location, and now we have added the v1 back into the location header, and this is what gets back to the client. And regarding the some of the not bad requests, but some of the requests that would not do any translation is if you have, let's say, token index of 6 here, which basically means we don't have token index of 6 in the request URI that we are sending in. And now what the filter does, the URI stripper filter does, is it will not do any kind of translation or any kind of stripping because it cannot find that particular token index. It will send the request through as is. And it will not do any changes on the location header either. So the other end case is if you have a bad URI in the location header that does not compliant with the RFC standards for the URI, then also the filter will leave the location header as is. It will not do any kind of rewriting on it. Those are the 2 end cases that I wanted to cover.